Welcome, everybody, to the Focus to Win podcast. We got a special episode ahead. Me and Lee, we worked to get special guests for this special episode. This individual is someone close to me through my college days. He's a highly successful athlete, somebody who's in the 1% of the 1%. This is a student athlete who has defied a lot of odds, and it's very impressive to see, and I think he's a perfect guest for today. So everybody, I want to welcome you, first round draft pick to the Chicago Cubs, 13th overall, Matthew Shaw.
What's up, guys? Thanks for having me.
What's up, brother?
Hey, thanks for attending.
Yeah, man. So we're going to go into a lot of things today, and one of the focus is obviously focus to win. It's a lot of mindset oriented things. So Shaw, you were a guy that I remember day one wasn't really like this big time recruit, wasn't this looked as this super stud from the jump. Tell me more about the start to your journey as a high school athlete and then arriving to University of Maryland on campus.
Yeah. I mean, as a high school athlete, I always, love sports and, it's definitely a grind. And, I look forward to playing college baseball, which, obviously we got to do together, which was sweet. But yeah, like I was a smaller guy, like didn't have a lot of opportunities. I mean, it was between Northeastern and Maryland, and Maryland was a better school for me, and, kind of the cards fell how they did, and I ended up at Maryland. But, for me, it was like I just wanted the opportunity to play. I was kind of always a consistent individual, about the way I went about my business, nutrition, sleep, all that stuff. So for me, it's just kind of believing over time that, if I stayed consistent, I stayed with what I did best, that, over a long period of time, that eventually it would work out in my favor. And it definitely did.
Talk about the compounding effect. So it sounds like it goes right into it. I don't know if you read the book or not, but just amazing what compounds over time with consistency and persistency. So I think is there a time either in high school or college that your mindset shifted of, hey, this really has become my focus and I'm putting even more energy and focused time into this?
Yeah, I mean, that probably happened for me at a relatively younger age, maybe like 13, 14, around there, where I was like, I got one shot at this. I got one shot to go through high school, go through college, go through this whole process. Let's see if I can make the most of it, and do the little things right that I can do, and see if over time it works out, if it works out or it doesn't. It definitely, I was lucky enough that it worked out for me, with, a few things going my way. But overall, like you said, the compound effect, I did read that book, and it's a great one and super simple concept, but, it's very true. As I've gone through this, I put in a lot of work as a younger kid, but, over time and with all these, being consistent, all these different avenues, the momentum and the compound effect has built a lot of momentum, so where I'm at today, in my life is honestly a lot simpler than it was 5-6 years ago, because all the momentum has kind of pushed itself in the right direction, and I don't have to push so hard. I kind of have some avenues working for me now, and I've been, good to the people around me, and, I'm sure AC and you guys are the same way, where he was always really good to me when we were in college, and, having people in your corner and having all these things working in the right direction, it's been really helpful.
Yeah, man, that's incredible. I'll tell you this. One of the things I admired about you was that you weren't like a guy that was really a hoorah type of a dude. You were somebody who's always laser focused. Like you have that like Rocky Balboa eye in you when you were on the field, like that relentless, like kind of chip on your shoulder, pissed off. I'm going to win. I'm either going to run you over or you got to get out of my way. And that started with a lot of like your you versus you mentality, where you're being the best version of yourself. That's one thing that I really saw what separated you. I watched it from a distance and watching you on the field and how you carried yourself. I was really amazed at that. And that's a very mature approach to everything. So I want to hear more, what is your mindset when you're walking into a competitive atmosphere like baseball or just anything in life, and why you're really personalizing that to not me versus this guy, it's me versus me, and how has that approach have really allowed this success to grow into something for you?
Yeah, no, it's funny you say that. My fiance and I say all the time, like me versus me. But no, like what you're saying, for me, it was more like, control the things I can control, and there's only so much you can control, when you're playing a game of baseball. There's so much failure, there's so much this and that. And, there's nothing, I can't do anything with the opponent. I can't control the pitcher. I can't control the other team. All that stuff, I can't really even control my teammates. But
Right.
if I can do everything I can do for me to get me the most prepared for that situation, then that's exactly what I'm going to do. And, I think, I was able to kind of take that above and beyond and prepare and control, every aspect of my life. Like I'm sure you guys are the same way when it comes to sleep and what you eat and what you read and what you watch, and all that stuff goes into kind of you as a person. So for me, it was just controlling all those things, whether I was on the field, whether I was off the field, no matter where I was. And, I think that's helped me to kind of just continue to build that momentum for success.
You can only control you, right? That's the number one thing. You can't control your environment. All you can do is control what your actions and activities are and how prepared you are for the moment. But then all the practice, you had mentioned luck earlier. I was like, luck with preparation, luck and preparation, amazing when that comes together, and hard work when you're doing all this hard work and nobody's seeing it, right? How many batting practices, how many, catching, like all the things that you've gone through, baseball, lifting weights, running, all this while nobody else is, looking. It's kind of up behind Austin is success and the waterline, and everybody sees above the waterline, but not all the, persistence, late night, rejection, sacrifice, discipline, doubts, failure, risk. Like they don't see that, but you just have to stay at it no matter how bad, you're gonna have your great days, your terrible days, and so forth. And you just keep at it, and the compounding and course correct through the way, and amazing what the outcome is.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sean, I love to touch on our team because I think it's funny. I came around probably the year before you got there, but there was a big culture change in that team. And I want to talk about being a part of a winning organization and what that really means and the difference between maybe an average subpar organization versus a team that has a culture, a winning culture. I want to hear your perspective on what you think a winning culture is. Maybe some things that you saw your time at Maryland that allowed you guys to, even when I left, you guys took it to another level. Like it was one of the best times of my life to watch the guys that I played with and watch us go through those morning workouts of the COVID years and make something out of it. So I want to hear your side. What do you think is the difference of a culture team? And I may know the answer, but I want to hear your side. For a team that wins and has that winning standard set.
Yeah, I mean, I think you said part of it right there, like having a standard every day, like the way you go about your business. And I think that's someone like, we talk about Bubba a little bit, who was a star player at Maryland. And to watch him and his growth, like being there. And, the year we hosted a regional, we had a standard. Like not every team, not every culture is going to be the same. I mean, there's so many different personalities, so many different people. But, one thing that, kind of transcends all those things is having a few leaders such as Bubba and a couple other guys, and whatever the situation is, that have that standard and go about their business the right way, so guys follow that, and we had that, we had that all 3 years I was there. We had guys that went about their business the right way. They took things seriously. They put in the work, and, over time people see that and they follow that and they get attracted to that. And then the more guys you have that way, obviously the more successful you are. So I think that was a big part of our success for those years.
Yeah. It's always walking the walk.
Yeah.
I think it's so many people that will always talk the talk, and then they're the ones that bring bad culture into it rather than just walking the walk and not expecting all the hoopla and bullshit that goes along with it, rather than just staying focused of, hey, here's my standards, I'm staying at it, who else is along for the ride?
Absolutely. Well, what's funny is, as Sean mentioned, there's so many different personalities in an organization, whether it's a business, whether it's a team. And I'm sure you're starting to figure out as you're climbing the ropes. Now you're at a major league level. You're climbing up the ladder, which kind of leads to my next point. Now that you've attained a lot of success, you went from a guy who wasn't highly recruited, and you started to see that culmination of hard work, the after hours, the showing up before, showing up after, start to yield. And now you're in a position where now the stage is even higher, right? Has the culture changed much now that you're a professional, signing the big checks, going through the high end workouts, being with all these superstar athletes. What's some of the differences that you see now?
That's a good question. There's definitely, I mean, personality is always going to be one of those things where it's like kind of a toss-up. Like you got so many personalities, no matter where you are. And so I've definitely noticed that there's a lot of different personalities. But one thing I did notice that was kind of interesting to me, we had a little meeting with a couple of the big leaguers maybe 2 weeks ago. And the one thing they said was like, hey, we want you guys to come up here because we want to win. Like that's all we really care about, because in this level, there's so much pressure, like you said. There's so much personal stuff that goes on. When you win, it makes everything a lot easier because like everybody's kind of pulling the same rope. Nobody's really that much focused on themselves. It's like,
Right.
it's a good thing. So that's kind of the team aspect of it all, is that like everyone wants to win. Everybody wins when you win, it's these guys, if they win, you're getting more money, you're getting whatever it may be. Like there's a lot of things that come along with winning that's really good. So that was something that was interesting to me. But all these guys go about their business. Like they know what they're doing on a day-to-day basis. They have their routines. They're prepared. Like they do things at an elite level. Like even they honestly do the smaller things at an elite level. How they go about everything from the time they wake up to the time they go to sleep. And that's why they're the best at what they do. That's why they can play 162 games, in 180 days, consistently. It's a grind. It's mentally, physically, it's a lot of ways really exhausting. So, if you have even the slightest crack in what you go about your business, like it's, it'll take you down hard. So, just being kind of rock solid with how you go about everything. I notice these guys and how they do it. And, it definitely makes a big difference in the long run.
That's saying how you do one thing is how you do everything most cases, especially at that level. So what earlier on when you had said, we were talking about mindset, is there anything that really shifted? So you had like an 8 to 10 year period, right, of compounding to get to that, to the big leagues. Is there anything as you're going through that process? Because I think of Austin saying when you first got there compared to like years later playing, what was there any one thing or any tweaks that you really got were like, holy shit, this was my major mind shift. Now it's accelerated my progress through this, I think of going back to focus to win. So like, what was those small things? And it's usually like you mentioned simplifying things, right? So simplification of, hey, this is my focus. Did you compress of what you were really focused on, or what was the mind shift to get you to that next level?
Yeah. I mean, I definitely think like figuring out who I am was a big part of that. Like realizing what I liked, what I didn't like. Obviously I mentioned I have a fiance now.
Congratulations.
Congrats, dog.
Thank you guys.
You and Danielle, both of you.
Thanks. And, that was kind of the big part, because especially, going through college, there's so many distractions, like there's a lot of things to get distracted. And for me, it was like, I kind of, really wanted to figure out who I was. And that helped me to kind of mitigate distractions, mitigate the stuff that I wasn't, like the stuff that I knew, like just wasn't me. Like I didn't party much in college. And it wasn't because I was like, oh, partying's bad. I was like, I just didn't want to do that. Like it just wasn't for me. And I didn't have fun doing that, so just kind of figuring out who I was kind of a big switch for me to be like, okay, these are the things I am. Like I need to be confident in that. And this is how I go about my business. And it kind of is what it is. And, that helped me to just kind of keep on that path, gain that momentum. And, the less distractions I had, the quicker the momentum, became. So, it was definitely a cool process going through.
Yeah. You always had the simple approach. Like this, like I'm not over exaggerating. This dude's routine was like as stern as you could possibly be. Like sleep the whole 9 yards. I remember it. We would be on the couch watching sports and we would like mess around with you, but you were exactly right. That's something that at a young age you were a younger guy when I was there. I think you were maybe a freshman or sophomore, to have that discipline as a college kid at 19, 20 years old is what really separated you. If you really break that down, those small details is no different than the small details that you see with these probably big leaguers that they do every small thing super well at such a high level. And that translates to everything in life. I don't care what sector you're in business, in sports. The guys that separate from, the other 90% is very fractional, but it's such a focus on that small, minute details that excels to the great things. Yeah, man, that's fantastic. And I don't want to hold you too much longer. I know you're a busy guy, but tell me more about the cultural difference. So Maryland's obviously, more military style. You got like a schedule always at your fingertips. You're told what to do, when to do it. 5 a.m. lifts, sprints, game day, practice routines. How has that shifted in the professional world? And tell me more about the pressure that you're now facing with the status of where you're at.
Yeah, I mean, that's shifted because now, for the most part, you're completely on your own. Like, you're relied on to do your own scheduling, whatever it may be. Like, you can kind of do as much or as little as you want for the most part. I mean, if you're completely slacking off, they might whip your butt gear a little bit.
Right.
But which is great for guys that do have routines, because it's like, you're not wasting any more time. You're not sitting around. You're not like sprinting, when, you just lifted.
Right.
You already did stuff, so it's like you can kind of make it your own, which I like. But when it comes to the pressure side of things, there's definitely a ton of pressure on everybody. I mean, there's a lot of players in this game and a lot of professional baseball players. But for me, kind of as you go up the ladder, I think personally, there's almost less pressure in a way. I mean, I'm not like me, I'm not like a social media guy.
Right,
like, I don't
right.
have any of that stuff. So that's a whole different can of pressure that I just don't deal with because I don't have it, which is good. Like, I don't even have to worry about because there's a lot of stuff that comes along with that. But when it comes to on the field stuff, like, really baseball specific, because there's so much failure in baseball. Like, there's so much failure. I mean, you get it, man. You played it. Like, you fail all the time.
Right.
And the guys that fail the most are the big leaguers. Like, nowadays, those guys are failing all the time. These pitchers are really good. And, for me, it's like, okay, there's a little bit almost less pressure there because everybody's going through it. Like, every single guy is failing on a day-to-day basis. And when you talk to these guys, it's like, hey, what's the difference between you that stayed in the big leagues for 15 years and him who stayed in the big leagues for 5 days? Well, I know how to deal with failure. This guy knows how to deal with failure. They know how to deal with the fact that they just stunk for 2 weeks, but knowing that, going back to the compound effect, knowing that over a long period of time, like, it's going to be perfectly fine. Like, you just have to understand that. And some guys, it's hard, you struggle and all of a sudden you kind of freak out. And for the most part, you realize that the guys that kind of freak out compared to the guys that don't are the guys that don't have those routines and those discipline that's like set in stone, where no matter what, no matter how bad they're doing, they know that they're going to go back the next day. They're going to go through their routines and they're going to find a way to be successful. Whereas the guys that don't, they have no foundation and they crack quickly. You get up there and you fail.
Yeah.
It kind of crushes you.
I think with that higher the standard you are, and especially you seem like you're always this way, right? You're just calm as can be. Like, this is your standard is probably way higher than most others, where the other ones probably vary. Like, here it is today, here it is tomorrow. The more that so there's sacrifices with that, but it comes back to personality. Everybody's personalities, right? You're more that calm. You don't ride the emotional roller coaster and other things. So that helps you deal with that. What do you think your biggest secret with dealing with losing? Like, all right, we all lose. So how do you overcome, hey, I got, whatever your ERA is and RBI and all that stuff? Like, what do you think when you're talking about that 15-year versus the 5-day, like, what does that look like? What is it for you?
Yeah, for me, dealing with losing, dealing with failure, like, if I'm talking about dealing with losing a game, or something like that, for me, it's like, I just don't have the control over that stuff. For me, I can just let it go. Okay. And I guess kind of with the failure too, it's the same thing. Like, if I strike out, like, it's not like we have a funny, like, guys will say this all the time. They'll like strike out, and especially in college, and not really in Maryland, but other places. And the coaches get pissed off. Like, what are you doing there? He's like, well, I wasn't trying to strike out, So, like, realizing that a lot of this stuff is just out of your control. And that's why I mentioned luck. Like, you go up and down with your luck and how you're doing, and that's okay. But at the end of the day, I know I'm consistent enough off the field that, I'm going to put my best foot forward every day. And if it's a great day, if it's a bad day, it doesn't really matter to me because I know I put in the work and I know, I'm right where I'm supposed to be, regardless of the outcome.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
What's your daily routine nowadays? Is it you have, I'm sure you have a very strict routine, knowing you, but tell me more about that. What does that look like for all the younger kids out there right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the routine stuff now, it's obviously a little different because I'm on a different schedule than when I was, when I
Right.
was younger. But, it's like some people, like when I'm going to lift, there's a whole routine, 30-minute routine before lift
Right.
to prepare me to lift so I don't get hurt, so I'm completely warm, that all the part of my body is ready to go, for come lift. And then before I throw, there's a whole arm routine to make sure that my arm is completely warm. Same idea where like, my routines have kind of shifted from just because the schedule is this way for an athlete where it's really not always like, set in stone where you can do the same thing every day. So you kind of have to adjust where you have routines that you kind of have that you just know that before this event, I have this routine no matter what. So like, whether I'm lifting at 4 in the afternoon because we have a night game or I'm lifting at 4 in the morning because we have lift at whatever it may be, I have my routines that I can do beforehand that can set me up for those things and make sure I'm healthy, make sure I'm ready, all those stuff. And then, there's kind of more of like the compounding routines that aren't necessarily something that are a certain time of day, but there's something that I'm always doing, like, drinking electrolytes, making sure I'm on top of that, drinking water, like really cutting out a lot of crap that I won't drink, soda, sugary stuff like that, stuff that's just not good for you. Eating healthy, getting at least 9 hours sleep a night.
Very good.
Danielle and I will take a nap every day for like 30, 40 minutes, so those are routines that might be a different time every day, but there's something that I'm very consistent with. And, over a long period of time, like we talk about, it makes a big difference.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What do you use them for electrolytes? And do you have like a vitamin regimen, stuff like that?
Yeah. So I have these electrolytes.
He's going to be stealing it.
Yeah. Let me grab them 1 second.
Yeah, man.
All right. They're not far, so I thought I'd grab them. They're Body Bio.
Okay.
Body Bio E-Lite, little electrolytes.
We didn't pay for advertisement on this. Just saying. No.
Yeah, sorry.
No. It's good because I'm gonna be inquiring on them too.
Yeah, but they're just like the most kind of plain electrolytes you can get. They taste like salt water. They got all the electrolytes you need. So, just plain, simple. They don't have any of the extra crap, which I like, and it's good. Makes it good. So.
Well, Matt, I know you got a jet, man, but first and foremost, I appreciate you taking the time today, man. I owe you a favor. If you ever need anything, you got my number, man. Your text or call away. I'm here for you. I hope your fam's doing well. I wish nothing but the best for both you and Danielle. That's awesome that you guys are engaged. I saw the post. I'm like, oh shoot, he's locked down. That's awesome, man. But before I let you go, what is one thing you want to accomplish in 2024?
I would say, make it to the big leagues. That's probably one thing I want to accomplish in 2024. Yeah, that's kind of easy little goal there I could throw out there.
Attaboy. Nice. Well, I'll be watching you, man. If you ever need anything, give us a shout. But I'm always here for you, brother.
You have a wedding date set yet?
Appreciate you, AC. Probably a couple years. No date set yet, but
you got it out of the way.
Nice.
All right, brother. Well, have a good 2024. We'll stay in touch, brother. Appreciate it, man.
All right. Thank you, guys. Talk to you soon.
So there you have it, everybody. Special guest, Matthew Shaw. Special guy. Someone that is you're going to see a lot on ESPN one day, potentially seeing the Hall of Fame. So, I mean, again, I watched it firsthand, and if you told me 5-6 years ago that would happen, I would say.
But I love some of the stuff he said. I go with simplification, simplifying life, compounding effect, walking the walk, not talking the talk. Your focus, we talk about focus to win, right? What are your focuses? I think of you with your whiteboarding with your dad as a kid. That's more or less what he was saying. He's like, hey, I started at 13, really figuring out mindset of where I'm going. And some of us are 25, 30 before we figure out mindset of where we're going. And sometimes you're 10 years old, but I think just simplifying, compounding, the consistent and persistent, my two big things. and just creating those good behaviors and sticking to it over time, course correct slightly, but just go after and amazing what you can do rather than being average, right?
Yeah. And you know what? You hit the hammer on the nail there. I think what that's a good example of is when I realized that when I got to Maryland, that standard, when you're in, that's why it's so important. When you're in a room around people that want to accomplish the same things, that standard is the same.
Yeah.
You have to be around and you have to bring in people into your company, your team, your organization that want that same goal.
Amazing with standards.
And that's where the standard is set. The standard is not set trying to convince people. It starts with the individual. So that's a great example. And you know, Lee and I mean, we're very blessed to have some of these guests. We have plenty more coming your way. Lee, you want to finish them off? And
I'd say, you know, thanks for watching. Subscribe below. We look forward to seeing you on the next one.